What's going on, everybody? Today, I'm going to be talking to you about how I personally go about creating my tactics and how I create my elite tactics like my 4-3-3 Mando, the 4-3-3 Mando Evolution, and my most recent one, the 4-2-3-1 Power of the Orange. We're going to be going over how I kind of think and break down what I'm going to be doing with the team, how I'm going to be able to get the most out of it, and how the tactic is going to help them perform above and beyond what is expected of them. And hopefully today you can take away something that'll help you take your team to the next level. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's video. Alright, so you're going to be seeing some images to my right, like the one that you currently see right now. And this is kind of going to just help me kind of be able to break down everything a little bit easier and help visualize it for you guys a little bit as well. So these are going to be the steps that we're going over. I have it in front of me. You guys have it in front of you as well. I'll be reading off of this. I'm going to be showing you guys how I analyze the squads when I start to begin to make a tactic. I'm going to be showing you how I develop a system that fits the needs of the players and the club's goals, as well as how I would go about building the tactic. I'm also going to be talking about how I make sure it checks all the boxes, which is kind of a little checklist that I personally have. And then the last thing we'll be going over is how to utilize opposition instructions and how to make sure that you are suffocating your opponent. So the first part we're going to be doing is analyzing the squad. The squad that we're going to be analyzing today is actually the save that I'm currently doing over on Twitch, which I will have a link to my Twitch down below in the description if you guys wish to check it out. There are currently 2 VODs up for it already. But here's kind of how I break down how I personally go about analyzing a squad. I look over the squad, kind of the positions, the roles, the ability of the players. I call up any youth players that can help contribute, such as when I would test with FC Lorient, that is one of the clubs that I really do like testing with. Junior Krupi, a majority of the time, is down in the youth setup, so I have to bring him up, and I know that he can help contribute, especially squad rotation wise within the testing. By looking over all the players and their abilities and what roles are best suited to them, I can figure out what roles are going to be able to be utilized within the tactic, which then that kind of helps me figure out what formations I'm going to be able to use, because if I have some players that are really good in the midfield, I know I'm going to have a multitude of players in midfield type roles. Or if I have a multitude of center backs, I'm going to have to probably rock a 3-5 in the back type system. And so here we are at the squad overview screen. You see all the players' names over here, their positions, as well as their best role and or their best position along with their ability. And what I first like to do is kind of go to the position and sort by position, because then you get a pretty good overview of, all right, how many players do I have that are able to play each different role, each different position. And right away, I can tell I cannot play a 3 or 5 in the back system simply because I just do not have the numbers available to me at center back to do so. When it comes to the midfield, I know that I 100% have the ability to rock a multitude of different midfielders. And even when it comes to my width players, meaning my wingers or wingbacks, I have the players that are able to do so. And I have a pretty decent amount of strikers as well. I believe I have 5 different players that can play striker. So midfield combination wise and attacking combination wise, I know I can rock anything from a 4-3-3 to a 4-2-4. And that's exactly what I did. My original instinct was to play a 4-3-3. I wanted to kind of set up a system, build a system that was geared towards a 4-3-3, as I knew that this side was going to be able to do so. So I had a gegenpress, a possession, and a hybrid version of the system that I wanted to pursue with Tromso. However, and this will probably happen to you as well, I knew that from the performances, I probably had to make some tweaks either to the tactic or try a different formation, because we just weren't getting the best out of the side. We were fairly inconsistent at the start of things. As you can tell right here, this is the inconsistency. This little run of games right here, we were not doing too great, and I knew that, okay, we had to make a change. And that is when you kind of know with your tactics, all right, maybe I need to either make a tweak here, tweak there, or maybe just try a different formation. Not something crazy different, but maybe just switch one position. And that is exactly what I ended up doing with this Tromso side, as a 4-3-3 can easily become a 4-2-3-1 in attack, and that is what we ended up transitioning to. We transitioned to a 4-2-3-1, and ever since we did, we have not lost a single game within the league. So you definitely do need to be aware of, all right, when I'm creating my tactics, do I see this kind of lasting for the long haul? Or am I going to have to be making tweaks every now and again? Because that is what happened off the rip, but I knew that I needed to adapt quickly. And so we did. And since then, we have been unstoppable. And when it comes to the player roles, there are some pretty overpowered roles that you can kind of plug into your tactic, and no matter what, they're going to do absolutely fantastic. One of those roles is a ball-winning midfielder. Another is your goalkeeper as a sweep keeper. Your wingers as inside forwards on attack. They were all doing all right to an extent, but I knew that I still needed to make a few different tweaks. And this happens in general with my normal tactic testing. So with my Power of the Orange tactic that just came out a couple days ago, I tried a 4-3-3. I tried a 3 and 5 in the back with them, but I had to keep on tweaking and tweaking until I got to that 4-2-3-1. And that actually is the 4-2-3-1 that I ended up changing to with the side that we haven't lost a game since with. And you still see that ball winning midfielder on support, the sweep keeper on defend, the inside forwards on attack. But I added in 2 more OP roles, the advanced forward on attack and the shadow striker on attack. I'm not saying make your tactic as overpowered as possible, but I do suggest having at least 2, 3, maybe even 4 OP roles within your tactics, which I have a whole video dedicated to what are the OP roles. I'll be linking that down below in the description for you guys to check out, as well as something up in one of the corners right now for you guys to check out as well if you wish to take a look at that. But I'm going to be going over kind of a new list since the winter update. That will be the video that comes out Friday. So definitely make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you guys get notified when that video goes live. But now we're going to be moving on, and this time we're going to be talking about the system. I previously talked about the system that I wanted to implement into the Tromso side. I wanted a 4-3-3 to where basically everyone could seamlessly transition between each level. So the U19 second team into the first team and not really skip a beat. That is very important to your club, to where players are kind of basically able to integrate much easier. Look at the likes of a Barcelona or even Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool right now. There are players there that just, they already know the intensity and what is expected of them within the tactic, within the formation, within the side, to where they need to perform at such a high level. They already know that because of the system that is already in place, which we can see that here with the first team. We have them playing the 4-2-3-1 Power of the Orange. And then now we're here with the U19s, and you can see they're also playing the 4-2-3-1 Power of the Orange. This allows them to basically seamlessly transition into the first team side and be able to know exactly how the tactic operates. And doing it this way, this isn't really like how I go about it with the tactic testing that you see in videos. Sometimes you do. I'll admit sometimes I do this, but this is basically how it is when I am doing saves. And this is why I dominate in a majority of the saves that I do, and why this will help you guys dominate in basically any save that you do. Now we're at step 3, which is the tactic. If you have a pretty solid squad and you have the right tactic for them, it is going to be pure domination by your club. You need to make sure that you're picking the right formation, choosing the right play style. So gegenpressing, possession, a hybrid style, counter-attacking, all that good stuff. Decide on which roles you are going to be utilizing. Make sure that you're being smart with the mentality, because if you are selecting the right roles, the right formations, the right play style, and you get the right mentality, your side is going to be a well-oiled machine. And like I said earlier, at least use, at minimum, 2 OP roles. I said use 2, 3, sometimes even 4. At least use 2 of them. They will help your side and your tactic out drastically. But something that a lot of people probably don't keep in mind all that often, and I definitely utilize this within tactic testing, is know what type of playing styles your side is going to be up against within whatever league you are in, because certain leagues have certain play styles. So I know when I am tactic testing, say I'm wanting to do a 3 or 5 in the back tactic. Now I know with the Serie A that a vast majority of the sides are using 3 to 5 in the back systems. So I know, okay, this is really going to help me prove that this is one of the best type of 3 or 5 in the back systems out there, because you're testing against the likes of Inter Milan, AC Milan, a Juve. But then when I'm wanting to do a gegenpressing style, I kind of look more towards the Bundesliga, because I know that the Bundesliga, that is where gegenpressing kind of originated, was German football, and a vast majority of sides there utilize gegenpressing over possession style. Plus, I know if I am testing in the Premier League with a gegenpressing style, that I have to go up other gegenpressing styles such as Liverpool's. So knowing what styles you are going to be coming up against and playing against is definitely going to help your side, because it will help you either adapt or build your tactic around said style. So for me personally, with this Tromsø side, I knew just from about the first 5 games that we're going to come up against a variation of tactics. We've played 4-4-2s, 4-3-3s, 4-2-3-1s, 5-2-3s. We've kind of played anything and everything by this point, and I knew, okay, we need numbers back, but we also need numbers in attack, and this 4-2-3-1 was going to allow us to kind of get the best of both worlds with that. So when it comes to my checklist, I try and adhere by basically anytime I am doing tactic testing to bring tactics to you all, or when I am doing tactics for my personal saves. This is kind of how I think about things. The checklist is my squad makeup. Basically, I need to make sure that I am hitting on these 3 things dependent on what my back line is like. There's the type A, which is your 4 in the back formation. So 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2, any of that good stuff. If it is a 4 in the back, I like having a solid defense, I like having a creative midfield, and I like having a dominant attack. If I have those 3 things, I know it's going to be successful. Then we have type B, which is the 3 to 5 in the back tactics, and I basically switch what the midfield and the defense do with these. I want a creative defense in those situations and a solid midfield with a dominant attack. The reason why I switch them is because I know with a 4 in the back, that is a strong defense. I have the numbers there, so I can allow my midfielders to be more creative. If I have a 3 or 5 in the back, that means I'm utilizing wing backs. I need to have a creative defense. I need to have ball playing center backs and great crossers of the ball at wing back. So that means I need to have a more solid central midfield. Like if I'm playing say a 5-3-2, I need to make sure that I have a ball-winning midfielder in there for sure, another player on defend, and then maybe kind of let that other player do what they will, but they all need to be very, very solid in the defensive area. So now looking at the tactic with my Tromsø side, it adheres by that perfectly because I have the strong defensive back 4. I am able to have a playmaker. I also have the ball-winning midfielder, so I am playing a little bit more safer. But what I love about this tactic in particular is this gap right here, which allows the ball-winning midfielder to be a little bit more aggressive. It just does, and it's amazing with doing so. But I also include the number 10 within that midfield area, and he is as creative as it gets. By having that creative midfield, I have the dominant attack, which the Shadow Striker is a part of both. And I'll tell you, this attack is most definitely dominant. And basically, with my personal checklist when it comes to tactics, the type A, type B styles, what it allows for is balance within your side. You don't want it to be too top heavy, meaning either you don't want it to be too defensive, you don't want it to be too attacking. You want to make sure that you have the right balance, no matter the mentality that you're playing. You can be playing an attacking mentality and your team still have balance to it, which for a lot of you that utilize my tactics, you know that it allows for pure balance throughout your side. You don't have to worry about all that much. So for those of you wanting more balance or structure to your sides, try out my squad makeup routine that I do. See if going with a type A or type B can help you get to where you want to be with your side. And now that brings us to the opposition instruction stage. Opposition instructions can help make or break certain games, can help make or break titles, can help make or break cup runs. They can be very important and they help you suffocate your opponent. And I'm about to show you how by showing you how to do marking, pressing, weak foot, and tackling, because that can help on certain players, especially if you're playing someone like an Mbappe or Erling Haaland. So here we are with the opposition instructions. If you've never utilized this screen, if you are in your tactics screen, here's the overview. Up here, opposition instructions. You also have the opposition instructions right before you go into a game, which is usually when I go about doing these sorts of things. But how do I personally go about trying to suffocate my opponent? Well, one of the most creative areas of your opponent's side every single time, no matter what type of tactic they are using, is usually the wings, especially wing backs. So the defensive right and the defensive left, we're always going to be trigger pressing and showing on to their weaker foot. So with wing backs and fullbacks, why are we always trigger pressing them and why are we showing them onto their weaker foot? When you trigger press wing backs and fullbacks, that kind of creates a very short window for them to have any sort of creative influence on the game. And by showing them onto their weaker foot, which a majority of them are one-footed, so if they're on the right side, they're right-footed. If they're on the left side, they're usually left-footed. By forcing them onto their weaker foot and pressing them, giving them a shorter window to be creative, you are going to much more, a majority of the time, cause a mistake on their end. Now, when it comes to attacking wingers, there are two rules of thought for me with this. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive in the press, if you're playing a pressing style and you want to be aggressive with it, you are also going to always trigger press the wingers and show them onto the weak foot as well. However, if you don't want to be aggressive on the forward wingers, you can always leave that off and just show them onto the weaker foot. It still creates the exact same effect that it does with wingbacks and fullbacks. And with strikers, what you want to do a majority of the time, because I know that there are a lot of strikers that are great with both feet, but for the ones that aren't, you want to show them onto their weaker foot. That makes it hard for them to score, obviously. But when there's someone like a Erling Haaland, you're going to want to press them and tight mark. The reason being is because you want to suffocate the influence that they have on the game. Kind of like what Liverpool just recently did to Erling Haaland. He had one touch the entire game because that is kind of how they were treating him. They were tight marking him, they were trigger pressing him, and showing him onto his weaker foot. He had one touch in the box the entire game. However, if you're playing an Mbappe type striker, you're going to want to take that trigger press off. The reason being is because if you are pressing them and they get the jump on you, you're kind of screwed. So that's where keeping the tight marking and showing them onto the weaker foot kind of helps you. But when it comes to those big name type players and very big influential players, for example, this is Bodo Glimt. Patrick Berg is one of the best defensive midfielders and midfielders in general within the Norwegian leagues. What you will want to do is kind of go in hard on tackling. You will also want to show him onto his weaker foot, even though this man doesn't have a weak foot. This is going to kind of put him a little bit under pressure and make him panic a little bit as well. Kind of like with those wingers and wingbacks, you want them to panic and kind of force the ball into your feet. And speaking about those big impact type players, you will want to kind of make sure that you are always on them the entire game, trying to limit their impact on the game. So for me, that is Kasper Ho, that is Tobias Gullikson, and that is Patrick Berg. So this is how I would have it set up for these guys, because I want to limit the impact that they are going to have on the game. Now, Kasper Ho is more so that Erling Haaland type striker. He doesn't have the agility that Mbappe does. So I know that if I press him, he's not really going to make me pay like an agile striker would. I also want to tight mark him because I want to take away as many touches from him as possible. And I want to do the same thing with Tobias Gullikson, because previously, earlier on in the season, when we were playing the 4-3-3, I didn't really set us up like this to have the success that I know that we could against them. And so by doing this, I know I'm going to limit the impact that Patrick Berg, Tobias Gulskson, and Casper Ho have in the game. Which, for my side personally, doing this type of setup is going to give us a way higher chance of either getting a point or earning all 3 points and rising up the table. But all in all, with opposition instructions to keep it plain and simple and super basic for you all, this is how you have it just against the ordinary Joes. That's how you would have it if you're playing a striker like an Erling Haaland. And that's how you would have it if you're playing a striker like an Mbappe. And so there we have it. That is kind of how my mind operates when it comes to creating my tactics that I bring to you guys from the tactic testing, or even just my tactics within my normal saves. And if you would like to check out the save that I'm currently doing, I'll be popping my Twitch link down below in the description. It is called Youth of the Nation. It basically takes Youth to Gold with Building a Nation, combines it as one. We're doing it with Tromsø in Norway. It's been an absolute blast so far, and you can catch me over on Twitch Monday through Friday. But I do hope that this kind of enlightened you guys a little bit and helps you change your way of thinking when creating tactics, and kind of, you know, allows you to take something from this video, apply it to your tactic, to your side within your saves, and help bring you a boatload more trophies. So if you have enjoyed today's video, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing is 100% free, so why not hit that sub button. Right now I'll be linking on screen right now my most recent tactic that I have put out, as well as on the other side of the screen, the playlist of all my tactics that I've done so far this year within FM. But until next time, everyone, have a good one. Bye-bye.